What was that noise?
I'm in
a car.
I'm in a car. I'm in a car that is not moving, but I'm in a car in Yonkers off Tuckahoe Road with 87 and the aforementioned ramps leading to 87 with tractor trailers, etc. in the background. And do you know why I am in?
I think you had a listing appointment.
I actually left my cocoon and met with a human being. And for the first time in over a year, I shook hands with a stranger. And it's funny. Moderna. He goes, Pfizer. Shook hands. We were outside. He met me outside in the courtyard of his complex before we went upstairs, and he showed me his co-op apartment. And,
so that's interesting because that's, kind of leads us up to what we're going to talk about today.
Kind of does. It's kind of emblematic, isn't it?
Yeah. What were you going to say?
No, go on. Go on.
Well, so we were going to talk about what changed for the consumer, really, for buyers and sellers, what's changed since COVID. And then I guess we should add to that, like, what's going to go back to the way it was.
Well, a lot has changed.
A lot has changed.
A lot has changed. And I'm going to say something that could be taken the wrong way. So you got to listen to this a little bit. You watch Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Littlefinger, he says chaos is a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos is an opportunity. So I don't like the reason why, but COVID has enabled us to enact changes that we would not have been able to enact prior.
Oh.
And these are kind of like gripes that we've always had with consumers. Like, for example, we show two people the property, right? Two people at a time. In other words, you don't come with extended family, your kids, everything like that because of COVID, right? And the market has not suffered. People still do transactions. It is nice to not have someone's kids running around the listing. It's nice to have somebody's kids not running around the house. It's nice not to have a second uncle once removed make some blathering idiotic statement that screws up all kinds of work. It's nice to not watch someone's parents go through the sticker shock of what we call transaction lag, right? And it's nice to say to people, you got to sign these papers. This is a lead-based paint. This is an agency disclosure. This is a COVID disclosure. This is an exclusive right to represent. Please sign. Please give us your pre-approval before we show you the house. These are all things we wished we could have done that we never were able to enact as an industry because there was no external pressure on the consumer to do these things. But yes, we like to have your pre-approval before we show you houses.
Yeah, it's tough because some people just don't want to give up any personal information. Then you have people who are just so deathly afraid of impacting their credit score that they don't wait until the 11th hour to get any kind of pre-approval. And then you got people who just don't care. So I agree that's been great because they can't have access without it. So that's showings, right? So that's how COVID has impacted showings.
Yes.
But it has impacted showings even further with the popularity of virtual showings where an agent is literally going to the house and then walking you around the property. Number two, we've had 3D photography for a really long time, but now it's become an industry standard pretty much. Not every property can have a 3D tour. You certainly have to do some heavy lifting to get the property pretty much immaculate for a 3D tour to make sense on a residential property. But they have become a standard. Yep. So that's a good thing because we can reach buyers from much further away. I've done transactions, and I think you've done transactions without ever meeting a buyer, without going to the property. In fact, I bought my own house virtually. I never stepped foot in it until probably 2 or 3 months after I owned it in the Dominican Republic.
It has forced us as an industry to lean into technology, which was not utilized to its fullest potential. It has forced us to do that, just
Right.
like it has forced consumers to hire a babysitter.
Yeah.
Right.
Buyers. Yes.
Buyers, of course, to hire a babysitter. And it's forced sellers. It's forced sellers to clean their house.
Yes, which is nice.
Why hasn't my house sold? Clean your litter box.
I also, from a broker perspective, gotta say, I love remote closings. I don't want to go back to that. I never really saw any great reason for all of us to be stuck at a conference table with me telling inappropriate jokes for 2 hours, minimum 2 hours. Just such an antiquated process. I know that there's parts of it that attorneys aren't loving, that remote, what's that stamp? Notary is not the easiest process in the world. So I hope that they get that down a little bit better. But remote.
Yeah, attorneys have had to do some pivots also, no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
Closings are different. Electronic signatures on contracts we never used to see.
Yep, they weren't accepted in New York State. So I don't think that's going back.
What's going to stay? What's the first thing to return to pre-COVID?
Probably bring in grandma, grandpa, mommy, daddy, and all the kids. Honestly.
You know what? I'm going to push for that to not change. That's what I hope doesn't. That's what I hope remains a permanent change.
I got to tell you that I can't, as the manager here in the Putnam County office, I can't tell you how many calls I have taken in the last year, or a little less than the year since the market reopened, on someone went to the bathroom in my house and didn't flush the toilet. Someone opened my drawers and did this, and somebody did that. So I tend to agree with you. It's not fair to have one agent be responsible for 6 people in a house. It's not possible to monitor where they are at all times. So I agree with you. As well as pre-approval. I mean, why would I let somebody in my house who is not qualified to purchase?
That's what you need to understand if you're a consumer a year from now. If you want to buy a $3,000 jalopy used car, you have to give them your driver's license. That's very nice. Good swag.
Right.
But if you want to look at this $750,000 house, what, we're just supposed to let you in without any proof whatsoever of who you are and what you're capable of buying?
I mean, look.
The concern about credit scores is a misplaced belief. It's you're not going to ruin your credit score by getting a pre-approval.
No, and there's a time period. You can even get pre-approved by a couple of banks or people, and it doesn't impact as long as it's within a short period of time. But if you start house hunting every 3 months, maybe, that's different. Absolutely. And then I do think that we have to be flexible. I had a circumstance where I had a pretty high net worth, actually, Olivia did. I had a pretty high net worth individual who was in the middle of like a couple of things, like a merger with a company, a divorce, and blah, blah, blah. But they were able to provide us proof, identity of who they were and their position within this company and this and this and that. I sent it over to the listing broker, and they said, okay. They knew who I was. They knew I wasn't going to go out of my way to let somebody into a property that I didn't think was qualified. So obviously we want people to be able to see a property if they are qualified, and proof of funds or a pre-approval are the typical ways, but you can be flexible.
The confidentiality impasse is a rare thing, but it is a real thing. If the buyer wishes to remain anonymous and the seller kind of feels like they have a right to know who's going to be going through their house, I understand both sides of that, especially if the buyer is someone who is, look, we're in New York. It could be a television personality. It could be a Broadway producer. It could be an executive.
Could be Cuomo.
Could be our fellow Westchester resident, Andrew Cuomo. Yes, it could be him as well. It's I hope that people will continue to furnish us with pre-approvals before they go through a house. I hope that there will be sanity in how many people come through the house. And for the love, please hire a babysitter. If you want to bring your kids and your parents, here's a better idea. Have your parents watch your kids. And then you look at the house. Because you know what? Unless your parents are going to be living with you, you don't need to have their strings attached. And I know they're giving you the money. I know that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Exactly. So what else? Oh, we didn't really talk about, what about cryptocurrency? Not something I deal with much, but
okay. So I would be okay with accepting cryptocurrency for a commission, and depending on the medium, depending on the platform, I would be okay with accepting cryptocurrency for my house. But it would be tricky because what if it crashes? All right. So Bitcoin was trading close to $60,000 a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's now 45. It's lost 25% of its value. So there is a level of volatility in cryptocurrency, even in the big stuff, Ethereum, Bitcoin, so forth, where I can understand someone's reticence, but I would take it. As long as they show enough cushion, like if you have $500,000 worth of Bitcoin and you're paying $495 for the house, I would need more of a cushion. If you had $1 million worth of Bitcoin and it was a $500,000 house, I would be more comfortable. But if you only had $500,000 in today's value, I don't know. It's tricky.
I'm sure that's something that a contract would.
Well, here's the thing. You'd have to have an attorney. There's a domino effect, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to use cryptocurrency, you're going to have an attorney who can properly advise you on how to protect yourself if the creek runs high on that platform. Okay.
It's not any different than, like, let's say you go to, yes, Jim, that's the risk. It's not any different if you go, like, I bought a house in the Dominican Republic. I used American money, right? It's not any different if the dollar over in the Dominican Republic blew up in one direction or the other.
Or they kind of prefer dollars to their dollars, right?
Yes, now, but let's just say it was the opposite. So it was Dominican buying here. I'm sorry.
It's a shame that I remember the Dominican Republic's beer, El Presidente, and not their currency.
The currency is no bueno.
But what is the Dominican Republic currency? It's
peso.
The Dominican dollar. It's the peso.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dominican peso, DR peso.
So I would take $1 over that any day if I had the chance to get $1.
Well, I'm just saying, and I just use Dominican. Like, it's just the same thing as going from one country to another using $1 versus another, and then the dollar value on one of them goes way down. It's not the same thing.
Well, I think you simply have to have currency volatility. Yeah, I mean, it's that volatility is a thing. You have to have an attorney who understands cryptocurrency, especially if you're the seller, because otherwise, there's going to be, why didn't you tell me? Look back seller remorse, or why didn't you tell me questions later that I never want to have to answer. I never want to have to answer the why didn't you tell me questions. I want to know that I want my client to feel like I had managed their expectations. I took care of them. They knew what to expect. They knew what was next. And no black swan crazy thing came out of the woodwork and circumvented my advice ahead of time. But I will tell you, as long as the attorneys understand cryptocurrency, I would take it. I would take it. I am trying to stand on my head to figure out how to buy BitTorrent, just $100 worth of BitTorrent. That's all. Get the expert to answer their questions. Right.
So who's
the expert?
We simply sell home.
Wow.
Well, agreed right. With that.
We do, but somehow people think that we have to refer them to the expert, but who's the expert in cryptocurrency? I will say this: the undiscovered country in real estate is being a real estate expert who understands cryptocurrency better than everybody else. That is a corner of real estate that I would want to have exclusively. And I think we should do that, by the way, because what you really need is somebody who understands the blockchain, understands the Ethereum ecosystems and everything like that, who can fill in the gaps with our real estate expertise. But it's not as simple as saying, call your attorney or call your CPA. You know, who's your cryptocurrency expert? Tough call.
Yeah, not on like a 1031 either. You know, you need to have a very specific attorney who knows what they're doing.
I'll tell you something else where cryptocurrency is a concern. All right. On many things, we can educate ourselves pretty well on things like how to approach a for sale by owner, or how to take good care of a listing, things like that. You can learn in discussion groups on Facebook. You can learn a lot of information watching how-to videos on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I don't trust the content of YouTube videos on crypto, and I'll tell you why. Very simply put, they are pushing they're pushing something so that they can dump it later. Yeah. I don't know if they're pushing a cryptocurrency that they want to see rise and they're creating hype about it, or if they truly want to educate you.
The only person I listen to who talks about crypto is Gary Vee, and I just kind of tune it out.
He probably has as much of an agenda, though, as Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk burps and Dogecoin falls 33%.
Right.
And then he wipes his face and then it goes up 15%. And Bitcoin has taken a beating and everything like that. It still tells you that it is sort of a zero sum still in cryptocurrency. There's still not a lot of money in it compared to like the S&P 500. Mm-hmm. The market cap of cryptocurrencies is mind blowing, but it's still nowhere near the S&P 500. All right, so Tim, we're going to call you on that link, Tim. I'm going to look at that link.
It better be a good link.
But, pump and dump is a concern. A lot of these cryptocurrency videos that I see on YouTube that you think are how to buy this or how to buy that, it's really just pump and dump. It just feels like pump and dump.
Right.
Carlos, you have to make sure you get a good platform that's been there since the beginning so you can see the rise and falls. Anyone is selling a program for crypto to be wary. Okay, so Coinbase. Is it worth being on Coinbase? Is it worth being on Robinhood? Is it worth being on Voyager? And the other tricky thing is that New York has a lot of prohibitions against a lot of the cryptocurrency exchanges. A lot of these apps, you register for them and they will give you an error message. You're in New York, you can't use us yet. Can't do it.
I just
So,
saw that Cuomo is now lifting the mask mandate come Wednesday for indoors. I thought he was sticking to the indoor mask mandate, even if you're vaccinated. Sorry
I
to
don't know.
speak.
Maybe he saw this. Maybe he saw the science. Maybe the CDC gave him information that they had. Maybe he saw the latest stuff. I mean, it's frustrating to still see the discussion around this stuff and the different conspiracy theories, and the virus is too microscopic, and the virus is housed inside a larger water droplet. I mean, I can't believe I'm having these discussions with people. I really can't. I do know this. I'm going on vacation in June, and I'm going to be wearing a mask on the plane. And I'm fully vaccinated. And I checked, and I get 5G on my 4G phone. No,
How do you get 4G on a 4G
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's the conspiracy theory that they're going to put a microchip in us, and they're going to track our like this is the microchip though. The microchip. You ready? That's the microchip.
The phone?
Yeah. That's how they track us. They don't need to put anything in our bloodstream.
Oh, yeah.
What's the longest you've been separated from your phone today?
I can't even. Well, I separate because I have a night watch. But I can't even think about a pair of shoes without it showing up in my news feed. I can't do anything without. So
that is a peculiar thing. That Alexa, Siri, I know they're listening.
Wow.
I just know. I'm going to wear a bubble when I go on a plane.
No, you know what? I have the best advice. Okay. No, seriously. If you're at all concerned, just bring your own airplane bottles, because consuming alcohol covers everything on an airplane. Just saying.
She's an expert, Carlos. Listen,
I've never gotten sick on a plane, and I was traveling with Miss Trudy Iglesias on an airplane. You're always covered, just so you know.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of someone who tried to teach a baseball player with a drinking problem back in the 30s the dangers of alcohol. So he put a worm in a bottle of water, and he put a worm in a bottle of tequila, and the worm in the water swims around, and the worm in the tequila dies. And the guy said, "What does that teach you?" And the baseball player says, "If you drink tequila, you won't get worms." And there's provenance to that story. The baseball player's name was Hack Wilson. He's actually in the Hall of Fame. And he was quite a drinker. One of the reporters who covered him said he was built like a beer keg and not too unfamiliar with the contents thereof.
Poor guy. I mean, if people were talking about your drinking problem, when was that?
In the 30s.
Yeah, everyone had a drinking problem back then.
Well, I mean, what did FDR say? When he repealed prohibition, America could use a drink.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, what else is going to stay the same, though? What are we going to keep from the remnants of this whole thing? People are still going to have to show up with pre-approvals. People shouldn't bring their entire village and tribe to a showing. We need to see a pre-approval ahead of time. Sellers need to clean their house.
Okay, so here's the question. We have to figure out now, showings, open houses, masks are still required inside showings and open houses. Wouldn't you agree?
I have not had a cold in 2 years. So yeah. I got to think, maybe I'm going to be one of those old curmudgeon guys that's like, he still has lamb chop sideburns. Well, that guy still has a mask on. You get it? I may be that guy. Not the sideburns. Just the mask. Just the mask. Because I like not getting sick. It doesn't have anything to do with COVID. I don't want your cooties. I don't want your cold. I don't want your flu. I don't want whatever you're carrying around. I mean, my girlfriend's a preschool teacher. I should have a mask around her. God knows what she's carrying home from work. Around those little Petri dishes. Maybe she needs to keep wearing a mask at work. Allison and I are going to have to talk about this.
Oh, masks are hard with kids. They're so.
Gregory, my 16-year-old, I say to him, who is this guy? I love this guy.
We love you, Carlos. You want to be our guest?
Darth Vader mask. Yeah, it gets a little warm in there, but I don't blame him. I don't want to get sick. I like being healthy. It's pleasant.
It's not pleasant wearing a mask, Phil.
No.
There's nothing pleasant about wearing a mask. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Wash your hands. We can't, listen, how uncomfortable do we always feel around people in masks?
I don't feel uncomfortable around people in masks. Do you?
Yeah, I hate it. And I hate very few things.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a whole other thing, and it's a whole other episode because we're right up against 4:00, and I got another meeting, so we need to wrap this up.
We do. So hopefully the good stuff will last. The bad stuff will go.
And Bitcoin is fine as long as it wears a mask.
Yes, exactly. Or a Darth Vader helmet.
Or a Darth Vader helmet. Yes, exactly. All right. Take it away, Timothy. Thank you, Jennifer.
Bulls.